as having an eternal supply of energy. This rest of 28 says, the last thing in 28 says, his understanding is unsearchable. It continues the idea and going back up to his eternal idea, the eternal nature of God, the Creator. He knows everything. Studying for a few moments at 11 o'clock at night makes a person tired. Yet God has all the knowledge that ever will exist, that ever existed, and he doesn't forget any of it. And he doesn't fall asleep. That should give you comfort. And the idea of this power supply that he has, this eternal power, goes right into the next point. It transitions well to what he does with the energy that he has. God's full of energy. Energy is used. Yet God never runs out, and it never diminishes. Verses 29 and 30 brings us to our third point. God gives power to the weak. That's essentially us. God gives power to the weak. Listen as I read. He gives power to the faint, and to him who has no might, he increases strength. And when I think of someone that's weak, or someone that is a weakling, strength is something that they lack. You may put a rock out there, and no matter what that person does, no matter what shape they're in, they're never going to be able to lift that rock by themselves. He is lacking strength. He just doesn't have it and never will have it. In other words, God gives us many times what we don't have and what we need. He empowers us to do things that are impossible for us. When Moses parted the Red Sea, he parted it. Moses could not do that on his own. He could not make the wind blow. He could not make the water part. Yet God gave him, through him, made him able to do that. I think of another story where God gave power or strength to something. It wasn't a human, though. There was a guy named Balaam. He was being kind of ridiculous and not paying attention. And God gave the power of speech to his donkey. Donkeys don't talk. Donkeys make really annoying sounds. Yet God made it so a donkey could do this impossible thing. Christ even hinted at something having the power of speech. I like Luke 19:40. It says, I tell you, if these were silent, the very stones would cry out. It's talking about people giving praise or giving honor to Christ. And if they held their peace, Christ said the rocks would cry out. The rocks would speak. God has an infinite amount of power to give us. We can tap into that power. We are incapable of doing great things with God. You can do great things with God. Even the strongest, most youthful of men have trouble. I think of our strongest men in our country. We have, the muscle builders that do shows, but I'm thinking more practical men. Navy SEALs, Marine Recon, Army Rangers, Air Force Pararescue. Those men are our choice men. They could run a marathon probably. They could say, would you run a marathon tomorrow for us? With no training, those guys could probably go out and run a marathon. Most of you might make it a couple miles. You might make it a little bit more. But you will fall exhausted. You will fail. You're a youth. And if you run long enough, you will fall exhausted. A Navy SEAL, a choice young man of our society, may make it to 26 miles. He may make it 40 miles. But eventually, that guy will also fall exhausted. On your own, on our own, we will eventually fail. We may find the strength to run a marathon. We may find the strength to lift some extra weights. We may find the strength to deal with a difficulty in our life. Yet, without God's help, without God's empowerment, we do not have the strength to succeed in all things. Acts 1:8 speaks directly of God's empowering men to serve him. But ye shall receive power after that the Holy Ghost has come upon you, and ye shall be witnesses unto me both in Jerusalem and in all Judea and in Samaria and unto the uttermost parts of the earth. Not only does God give us what we don't possess, God restores our original energy. You guys can lift up a book. You guys can, walk to school, even walk miles to school. You have the strength to do that. Your strength starts to run out, though. Yet, in verse 31, it says, the Lord shall renew their strength. It indicates that they had the strength to begin with, but it ran out. God, the next point, strengthens the exhausted. God strengthens the exhausted. Yeah, we have that certain amount of strength. We do great feats. There's amazing things that men can do. I've seen men pull buses with their teeth. It's incredible what the human body can do. Yet, our strength can be depleted. We, in other words, can run out of gas. What God does, however, is He amplifies what we have. He refills our tank. He makes what we have last longer. He gives it back to us when it runs out, so we can continue. When I think of our eternal God doing this to us, He's allowing us, He's interfering with our lives and working in our lives, the eternal God that we can't even come close to understanding. I am forever grateful. I am grateful that a God does that. That's the attitude that you should have. Things go badly for you. You may suffer a physical problem. You may get hurt. You may have a disease. Somebody may get cancer. You may suffer an emotional problem. You may have difficulties with friends. You may have difficulties fitting in. You may suffer a spiritual problem. Things can go badly for you. And honestly, if you're a God-honoring Christian, things often do go badly for you. But God strengthens you. It is my goal in life to serve God in everything I do. This should be your goal too. Every detail of your life should be for the purpose of serving Him better. Kind of reminds me of a saying. It's an old cliche. That a person grows weary with well-doing. That's actually true. You grow weary. You grow tired by doing good all the time. It's hard to do what's right all the time. You get left out of certain things. You want to enjoy the time, but you realize you can't do that or you can't do this because you're doing what's right. And it gets weary. You get picked on. Whatever it is, you do grow weary. And God will renew your strength. God will allow you to continue. As you know, I am training to run a marathon. This marathon's in September. I've never run a marathon, and I've never received what runners call a second wind. Maybe I'll get that second wind on this marathon. I can just picture myself running. You hit that first mile marker. Yay, I ran a mile. Hit the second, the fourth, the 10th mile, the 15th mile, and you're getting tired now. You've been out there, you hit the 19th mile marker. You've been out there between 2 and 3 hours, depending on how fast you run. You're tired. You feel like you're going to fall exhausted. And for some reason, and from nowhere, you get a sudden burst of energy that allows you to run those last 7 miles almost as if it were your first 7. That's a second wind. I've never experienced that, but maybe in September I will. If I do, I'll let you know when that happens. That renewal of power would be so enjoyable in a run, but imagine it in the Christian life. As you go through school, as you go through life, the year goes on and on and on, and you get tired. You're running the marathon. You're running the race of life. Do you need that second wind right now? God, the God with all that power, can give you that second wind. But there's an issue here. There's something that you need to do. Do you just get that power automatically? Does it come to you? All right, power me up, God. Plug me in, or whatever. Doesn't work that way. There's a word in verse 31. The word is wait. Uh-oh, I just said the bad word. The word is wait. Waiting at the line in McDonald's for 3 minutes. Oh, that makes people mad. Waiting at a stoplight when somebody doesn't take off within 2 seconds of it turning green. You hear lots of horns beep, and you even hear people yell. Stopping in the mall when somebody wants to get in front of you. They get mad and frustrated and go around you. People hate waiting. But you know what? The word wait here doesn't exactly have that meaning. When you think of the word waiting, you think of boredom. You think of sitting down, it's like, oh, I gotta wait for an hour. Oh, my ride's not here. Oh, I gotta wait for this person or wait for that person. That's not what it is. The word wait in this context has a different meaning. It means we should pursue eagerly. That's your responsibility. The whole passage boils down to that point. You need to pursue. You need to follow eagerly. But what are you pursuing? Well, what are you waiting for? You're waiting for a renewal of energy. How are you going to use that energy? When will you need the energy? When will you need God's power? Well, guess what? You have to use up the power first. This is your responsibility if you want to have your strength renewed like those that shall mount up with wings as eagles. Waiting on the Lord does not mean to sit on a couch and eat potato chips. It does not mean to spend endless hours playing video games. It does not mean all sorts of things. What it does mean, however, is what Onoda did. That guy, that soldier, that Japanese soldier, did he just wait in a cave after the island fell to be rescued? No. He followed his orders. He had standing orders to protect the island, to prevent it from falling into enemy hands. And so for 29 years, he waited and caused a great amount of damage to the island. A couple years before the student found him, his last friend, his last soldier, died in a raid. They were trying to destroy a rice field in order to hinder the Allied forces 29 years later when the Allied forces aren't even there. Well, he waited and he pursued actively. You have a responsibility to pursue actively as well. Well, what are you waiting for? I'm waiting for the power of God to help me share the gospel. Well, guess what you have to do first? You have to use up what you have, sharing the gospel. I'm waiting for God to help me do what's right. You have to make the choice to do what's right. And then God will renew that strength. God will give you the power to do what you can't do normally. You will never come to a place where you need that power, where you need the power of God, unless you are doing what God would have you to do first. You have a Bible. You need to do what that says. You need to obey the commands in the Bible. You need to follow its instructions. And when you do that, you will use up your power. You will use up your energy while waiting for God's renewing power. Are you waiting? Are you waiting by pursuing eagerly? You have a responsibility. Do what is yours to do. Wait upon the Lord, and he shall renew your strength.